Okay, have you ever told yourself, I'll do it, when I feel more confident? Maybe it's about starting that big project or speaking up in a meeting, or even something as simple as walking into a party alone. We just wait. We wait for this magical feeling of bravery to show up, but let's be honest, it almost never does. And it is such a frustrating and super common loop to get stuck in. But what if we've got it all completely backwards? Well, psychologists have found this really powerful truth that basically flips the script on everything we think we know about confidence. And it's this: the feeling follows the action, not the other way around. The feeling doesn't come first, the action does. And there's a name for this whole mess. Experts call it the bravery trap. It's this cycle of inaction where we truly believe we need to feel courageous or motivated before we can do anything meaningful. But by waiting for a feeling, we just end up doing nothing at all, which, of course, keeps us stuck right where we are. So let's dive into the science of this, because there's a really powerful psychological reason this trap is so effective. And listen, this isn't about you lacking willpower or anything like that. It's all about how our brains are wired to learn from experience. And the tricky part? Inaction is an experience too. Okay, so here is the absolute crucial point. We cannot just think our way into being confident. It just doesn't work. Your brain doesn't learn from positive thoughts alone. What it needs is cold, hard physical evidence. It needs proof that you can actually handle a situation. And that proof, well, it only comes from one place: actually doing the thing. Now, this is exactly what happens when we don't act. It kicks off this vicious cycle. So, step one, you feel anxious about something, which leads to step two. You avoid it. You get that little hit of temporary relief, right? But here's the kicker. By avoiding it, your brain confirms your original fear. It basically learns, okay, that was dangerous. Good thing we stayed away. And what happens next time? The anxiety is even stronger. So how in the world do we break out of this? Well, the solution is both incredibly simple and honestly pretty profound. It's a rule that you can actually follow that completely bypasses the need to feel ready. Instead, it just focuses on one simple instruction. So let's talk about the repetition rule. This is the core idea right here. I want you to forget about bravery as some kind of mood you have to summon. Instead, think of it like a discipline, a rule you just decide to follow. It's all about building a habit of action, no matter how you're feeling in that moment. All right, so a rule is great in theory, but how do we actually put this thing into practice? How do we start building that physical evidence our brain is so desperately looking for? It all kicks off with one really crucial shift in your mindset. And here it is. This is the hard part, but it's also the most important part. You have to be willing to act while you are still terrified. The goal is not to get rid of the fear before you start. The goal is to act with the fear. You just have to accept that initial vulnerability to get to the other side. And look, you don't have to start with some massive life-altering thing. This whole evidence-building process can start with tiny, vulnerable actions. Like, instead of using your phone as a social shield when you're in a crowd, just put it in your pocket. Or maybe at a coffee shop, you try starting a super simple conversation. Or in your next meeting, you just share one idea. These small acts, they're the building blocks. And here's why those tiny acts are so incredibly powerful. Every single time you do one, you are giving your brain a new piece of undeniable proof. It's like a new data point that says, hey, I did that and I survived. And if you repeat it often enough, your nervous system literally starts to recalibrate its definition of what's safe and what's not. So where does all this actually lead? I mean, this whole process isn't just about feeling less scared. It's about something much, much bigger than that. It's really about reframing what we're trying to accomplish in the first place. Just let that one sink in for a minute. The goal isn't to make your fear just vanish completely. Because, let's face it, the fear might always be there in some form. The real goal is to expand your world, your experiences, your abilities, so much that the fear becomes just one small part of a much bigger, much richer life. Which brings us to the final and most important question. This isn't about tomorrow or next week. It's about right now. What is one small, vulnerable action you can take today to give your brain that first piece of evidence it needs to start believing in a braver you?